Last year, the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police came on Memorial Day. 99 years before, that same week, Black Americans suffered a massacre. In the days after World War I, a neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma called Greenwood was among the wealthiest Black communities. Oil made Greenwood rich, but jealousy made it suffer. In 1921, a white mob with incendiary rage burned Greenwood to ash. Even memories were murdered when the dead were dropped into unmarked graves. In December of 2019, before the pandemic, we found Tulsa preparing to embrace a reckoning with a plan to exhume the truth and raise the dead.
The story will continue in a moment.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Mars, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope everybody had a great weekend. And when I say weekend, I mean Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, meaning that you got to do something for yourself. You got to do something for your family. You got to do something just for peace of mind. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We're actually switching up a little bit, but not too much. Let me welcome anybody who's come to the show for the first time. We welcome you, myself, the Shout Out Show family, the Shout Out Show soldiers. This is your home. So feel free, come in. Don't be a wallflower. Don't act shy like you've never been here before or you never had something on your mind. In fact, if you want to, we are encouraging you to get into our comment section. Let us know who you are, because we will definitely let you know who we are. All right? Tell us about yourself. That's number one. Number two, if you don't mind. If you don't mind, I'm just asking you a favor from your brother, Preacher Moss. Please click the subscription button, the notification button, and the like button if you really like the show. That's all we can ask for. You know, because we have a lot of topics on here. Some are funny, some are timely, some of them are just, things that are on my mind. And, every once in a while, you just have a show just to get things off your chest. I call this one forecasting. This is one of those forecast shows. If you look behind me, you will see the mural for Black Wall Street. And before I get into that, let me introduce people. But I want you to take a look at the mural. It says Black Wall Street, Greenwood Street. Now, there's a whole history to Black Wall Street, brothers and sisters. But I have had some disturbing thoughts about what's going on in terms of the current state of politics and what I remember from Black Wall Street. The similarities. There's a play. I want to say there's a playlist going on right now. There are some things that are eerily similar to what's going on. Because what I found is anytime there's been destruction of minority people of color in terms of the economy, in terms of their loss of life, in terms of their property, you can flip the page and realize years later that the same thing is going on. Now, before we get into that, let me shout out my Shout Out Show family. Brothers and sisters, please. This is the royalty. Shut up. We got Brother Derek. Hello, family. Congratulations, Preacher Mars, for a job well done. The ceremony was beautiful. Thank you, brother. Yeah, that's right. Your brother, Preacher Mars, graduated from Bayan Islamic Graduate School with a master's in Islamic education. Stay tuned. We got some good things coming up with that, too. Thank you so much, D. Chase. All right, my main man, Altaf Rashid, the official ambassador from Canada. What's going on, my brother? He comes in, he makes sure everything is right on this side of the border and the other side of the border. We appreciate you, man. Don't you change a thing. Wow, alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Altaf. And we got Sister Satana. Okay, I'm definitely holding down the ones and twos in terms of the production. Instead of it be finger, this finger, that finger. The one and twos, if you will. Just trying to make sure that things flow accordingly. But more so, brothers and sisters, Sister Satana has gotten a lot more in terms of coming up with stories, coming up with ideas. I don't know if you got to see the show yesterday about the twins. I haven't got a chance to see it myself. When I heard about it, I didn't even know these things about Sister Zatanna, that she comes from a family of twins. I was like, I didn't know we do almost 400 shows. I had no idea. I was embarrassed. I was like, man, well, I'm glad he might ask me. You see Sister Zatanna's twin? I'm like, which twin are you talking about? What you drinking? But if you get a chance, go back and check out the show. And this is why I say go check out the show. These are topics that you normally don't hear about. And we talk about families all the time. You understand the family dynamics of a family that has sets of twins, not one time, 2 times, 3 times. I'm like, man, like I told Sister Tana, if I come over your house, I ain't drinking none of that water. But I digress. So let's get to the topic today, because sometimes it happens. And we have got to give my little brother shout out, brother JT, Johnny L. Thomas, my main man. JT sent me the link that you actually saw at the beginning, the opening with 60 Minutes, and I watched it. And I'm going to say I watched it with some consternation, because there are things that, even as a comedian, and I'm a pretty upbeat person. The whole idea of Black Wall Street has haunted me. I have to say, it's haunted me since when I first heard about it. And it was like urban myth for a while. And then you find out it's true. And it really changes your perception about just the human condition, what people will do to people. It's almost like the Holocaust. When you're a child, you don't really hear about it. Then you have to do a project or something about the Holocaust. And while you're going through the research, you have to look at the fact that it changes you. Like, it literally changes you. And Black Wall Street is something that, if I'm not in my right mind, if I'm not in my right state of mind, I will break down and cry about it, because you're talking about massive loss of life. You're talking about innocence. You're talking about the loss of innocence. Now, for this particular show, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to be in a situation. I'm going to treat the situation with kid gloves. Murder's a murder. Okay, murder is a murder and things like that. And we don't do the whole degrees and stuff. This More Better Monday is going to be a learning lab. It's going to be a learning lab, because I want us to have a pro-intellectual experience about what's going on in politics and how it affects us, our families, our children's future, all of that. Skip all the BS. Let's get down to facts, brothers and sisters. And we got Sister Tough here. And I got to give Sister Tough, it's her 61st birthday, everybody. Before I get into the mix on this subject, Sister Janice, happy 65th. You're rolling strong, rolling strong. May Allah bless you with 65 more. Well, that's a lot, but if you get it, get it. Okay. So today I want to frame a little bit this discussion. I'm calling the present GOP, as it's constructed, I'm calling him the Greenwood GOP mob. The Greenwood GOP mob. Now, the reason I'm calling that, because they are bearing out certain similarities, historically applicable and morally applicable and morally reprehensible at the same time, in the way they've just treated American politics. We are looking at the Greenwood of our time coming out of the GOP. It could seem like an exaggeration, and I thought about this when I started talking about it. Am I exaggerating? And the answer is no. The answer is no. The tragedy of Greenwood is that people, Black people, were in a situation, scenario, in a town that was prosperous. Black banks, Black dentists, Black insurance companies, Black entertainment centers. They had a Black hospital, brothers and sisters, a Black hospital. But it's always the minutiae things of when people, the oppressors, choose willingly to overlook process. They choose willingly to not look at the facts, because facts don't matter. Just the same as COVID. Scientific facts didn't matter. You have a thing. It's a demonic expression of, I want to say, American exceptionalism, but it's inside of it. It is white supremacy. And endangered right now is the white liberal, because the white liberal is running out of places to run, because Black people, we don't have the bandwidth to shelter that, because we don't know who we're dealing with. When we begin to understand what's happened up to this point, you'll understand that the GOP before Trump had already been framing this situation. There are words that people forget about, like the Tea Party. Now, the Tea Party was whatever it was, but the Tea Party had an effect. It had a radical element. It was tied to the white evangelicals and all that type of stuff. And we scoffed at it because it seemed like they were always going to come back from the far right, at least to the center. That there'd be a mainstream expression of GOP values and philosophies. We have lost that. There's no middle, brothers and sisters. There's absolutely no middle. And much the same when you start pulling the DNA and pulling the DNA from what happened with the massacre, the Tulsa Massacre, because there's two things I want you to understand. They burned down Black Wall Street. That's one. But number two, they massacred Black people. Don't separate them. Number one, they burned that place down. Number two, they massacred its inhabitants. Even now they're talking about exhuming parts of Tulsa to find these bodies, because the thing is they burned it down because they don't want history to tell on them. They don't want history to frame the barbaric nature and the demonic nature of how they see things and how they deal with folks. If you really want to break this down, this is deep, because you've heard me talk about when I was in school and things like that. Some of the fights I had, they weren't black and white fights. Like yeah, I could get off kilter if you call me the N-word. But I could reason that. The things that used to get us upset, particularly as Black students, was that when we had something that was an established truth and you had to sit there and take it, and a group of people told you no. They told you no. Because, brothers and sisters, when you don't have the truth, what do you have? Literally, when you watch young men die at the hands of police, they're dying because guess what? Their truth is not being accepted. When we talk about Greenwood, the GOP, we have a new amalgamation where the truth doesn't matter. It's not even a situation of who's in possession of the truth. It doesn't matter. You can have truth written all over you, but people are not going to see the truth. And this is a scenario whereby politics is being run that way. I have never, ever had the lowest opinion of white political presence than I do now. That I watch white men pimp other white men and other white women in a political process. And we have to sit by and watch. We literally have to sit by. You might as well get popcorn and a pop. Sit by and watch this thing play out, knowing that in the end, it's not going to serve your best interest. Hell, it's not going to serve your worst interest. The thing about being, and I'll say this, because somebody asked me this one time in a conference about being Black in America. And I started to talk to them about in the context of critical race theory and things like that. And then I stopped myself. And I said, it's the equivalent, brothers and sisters, of someone forcing you to play a game. They make you play the game. You didn't want to play the game, but they make you play the game, knowing that they have already set it up where you're going to lose. They're going to beat you. You're going to lose badly. And as long as you are losing the game, they're happy. And they continue to make you play the game. But then something happens. Intellect kicks in. And you say, wait a minute, I keep losing this way, losing this way, and losing this way, and losing this way. And somebody goes, well, let me understand the nuance of the situation I'm in. A, I don't want to play the game. B, I'm being forced to play the game. C, my only idea is that I get better at playing this game. And while we're losing, we're winning because we're looking at the behavior and the setup and the structure of how this person wins. And we learn to emulate it. And at some point in time, You learn to improve it. You improve it to the point where that person can't use your system anymore. And at the height where you start winning, they change all the rules. They change all the rules. So if it was a basketball game, first one to 13, now it's first one to 19. Well, wait a minute, I got 13. Nope, it's 19. Now you got to play the 19 because it's still making you play the game. When you talk about Greenwood and the GOP, you're talking about people, brothers and sisters, that had a blueprint. Way back then in the 1920s, they had a blueprint for how to make sure that Black people kept playing the game that they knew they were going to lose. And it's not playing the game and losing the game. It's being made to play the game. And they tell you the outcome, you're going to lose. They tell you the outcome, you can't win. They tell you that the rules are slanted, and they tell you in your mind, don't worry about the truth. It's a fair game. It's an even playing field. And we become that people. Now, African-American revolt, African-American outrage, you know what? It's mainstream because it's so tied into so many other people who find themselves playing the game. So we don't have an authentic voice anymore. Worse than not having an authentic voice, we don't have a creative voice anymore. Everything's formulaic. That show we had on about, the protest help, it was because I'm asking about the creative nature of protests. If I say I'm going to have a protest, 15, 20 people go, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's show up. No. Why are you showing up? Why are you coming to my protest? What part are you functioning in the protest? Some people just want to get in front of the camera. Some people want to make sure that not too many people are there. Some people want to be watchdogs for the police. And I get all of that, brothers and sisters. But this situation, when you talk about Greenwood, and I'm talking about now the Greenwood GOP, is to make sure, brothers and sisters, through this maniacal presentation of what they call democracy, they make sure that we know that we're going to lose. And therefore, you have very few choices. If you know you're going to lose every time you go out, at some point in time, you're going to lose. Maybe you don't lose all together, but you lose enough, brothers and sisters. If that happens, are you going to stay on the team that keeps fighting? Are you going to stay on the team that keeps losing? I've seen black people I love and respect. All of a sudden, they are Republicans. All of a sudden, they call me and they start talking about, hey, preacher, I saw your show. And, Donald Trump is in this. I'm like, Negro, please. I will slap all the black back into your consciousness by telling me that. And you know why? Because they're afraid of losing. And when you look at Greenwood, it wasn't that it was the weakest reason to have. They were going to hang a young man. Black veterans had stood there to make sure the boy wasn't going to get hung. A fight breaks out, and the first thing they do is they go after the black veterans. They can't even go back in history and tell you whether this kid was guilty or not of a sexual assault. He never touched that girl. She ran off. She even said it didn't happen like that. But the papers at the time made sure that it was a spectacular story. Thank you, media. Who owns the media? Get on that, maybe another show. But my point, brothers and sisters, is that they've made a mockery of democracy. And when they come, just like they did in Greenwood, when they come, it's not enough to make you lose. It's to make you play the game over and over and over and over, and you suffer the psychological damage and loss of knowing that you're going to lose. I can't imagine the horror, brothers and sisters. I can't imagine the horror of watching my friends, family, community be mowed down, brothers and sisters, mowed down. This was not a regular riot. They had machine guns. In the article, the guy said they had turpentine balls because you had planes that had taken off in the air and they were dropping them on churches and buildings. They meant to burn that place down. And now this is a new attitude. This is a new GOP Hippocratic oath that we must burn everything down, because if you don't burn it down, there's a very, very potent, slight chance that the truth will live. There's 3 remaining residents from Greenwood. They're all in their hundreds. They never got, they never got reparations. They barely got apologies, and they still had to live with this lie. This lie that, and some folks, people say it didn't happen like that. And even America, think about this. World War II, you had Japanese internment camps. We don't talk about that anymore. Now they got reparations, but we don't hear that anymore because it's un-American, brothers and sisters. It's un-American to say that America did un-American things. And so as we begin to kind of move this thing around, it's like, okay, cool. The new Greenwood GOP is set about to make sure 2 things, as I was saying to my consultant producer, Sister Sultana, 2 things. Number 1, that if you go against them, hear me now, that if you go against them, the argument is now twisted that somehow to go against them, Liz Cheney, you are in fact giving up some or all of your white privilege. Now, why do I say that? Because they look at it and say, we can look at history and see where you enjoyed white privilege. That's one. And then the other point, and I'll make sure I say this very clearly. The other point is that to make democracy in terms of being fair, un-American. Un-American. This is a return to imperial times. This is a return. You know why they wanted to get rid of critical race theory in the schools, colleges? They want to erase it, brothers and sisters, because critical race theory, and I've been a long time proponent of critical race theory. Critical race theory always reveals the truth of the people involved in the conflict and the people involved in the lying. The people involved in the lying. Because, folks, we don't govern ourselves. We don't govern ourselves. We give the idea of governance to other people. And there's a trust there. You're Muslim, it's an amana, there's a trust. But there's also the idea that there can be a breakdown in people's moral character. That there could be some type of disruption of ethics and morality. And in the midst of all that, it's placed in a spot where it looks normal because everyone else is having the same thing going on in terms of disruption of ethics and morality. In my business of being a teacher, teaching special ed, the definition of a child who, in this case, was severely emotionally disturbed. The definition was that the child's behavior was so extreme or erratic that they couldn't function in a regular education system. That's the same thing we're going through now. You know, we're fighting to keep the mainstream educational system or social structure in place. But here's the thing, just like professional sports, what happens if the individual's behavior is fine, but the environment around the person is extreme? And what you find is there's contagion, because when the environment is extreme and it's negative and it's volatile and it's toxic, people, good-minded people, will levitate to that if they see other people levitate to that. Hey, don't take that vaccine. Why? I don't know. Don't take the vaccine. Okay. You didn't see them say it about those stimulus checks. Don't take the stimulus check. Why? I don't know. Don't take it. They were like, no, I'm getting my stimulus check. I'm going to pass the pharmacy. I'm not going to get a vaccine, but I'm getting my stimulus check. And the point is, brothers and sisters, not to even to belabor the point, but it's like, in the words of comedian T.K. Kirkland, who raised you? Who raised you? I love that. That's his favorite line, but I love it. Who raised you? Did your parents raise you? Or this maniacal system of American control, not government, but American control, American contrivance, American scuttlebutt, American skullduggery. Is that who raised you? I had a conversation last year with a young man, black man. You used to see him at the basketball court. He was a young kid, went to the Navy, came back, got in all kinds of trouble. And I asked him, I said, how could you do so many years in the Navy? 4 years, you did well, honorable discharge. I said, you've been home 2 months, and I'm hearing things, not just from your family, I'm hearing from law enforcement. And he said, Mr. Moss, he said, my environment is too toxic. He said, and I'm too weak in this toxic system. You see, brothers and sisters, the GOP, or I want to say the new Greenwood mob of the GOP, brothers and sisters, those are addicts. Those are addicts. I ain't talking about putting a needle in your arm or sniffing or smoking weed. I'm talking about they are addicted to this toxicity. In our business, we call it negative attention behaviors. That's what we call it, negative attention seeking or negative attention behaviors. Think about some of the things that you've seen. Marjorie Greene, Mr. Getz, Mr. McConnell, Donald Trump, McCarthy. Think of some of the bizarre things that you have seen. And the only reason that they're able to do it is because they think that they have an environment that supports it, that says it's okay. Someone sent me a video of a young man. He actually was chasing the police down the street with a bat. I've seen guys, white guys, go after white policemen with knives, just trying to stab them with knives. I've seen a policeman get beat up by a guy who was mad at him, and he never went for his gun. And the two takeaways was, number one, the perpetrator in this situation felt comfortable doing that because he felt like they were in a particular environment. It's almost like, how are you going to arrest me? You know where we are. It just so happens that cameras were allowed there. But also, the policeman, he reacts a certain way because they're in a certain environment. You know, the crime of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri is not, hands up, don't shoot, brothers and sisters. It was a very detailed, impeccable report that said that Ferguson had run on this dysfunction that they visited on black people, resulting in more fines, more arrests, tickets for jaywalking. We're busting you for drugs. We're keeping you in jail. And that was an economy, brothers and sisters. And this is no different. The thing that was destroyed in the Tulsa Massacre, Greenwood, Oklahoma, the thing that was destroyed was an economy of thought, an economy of intellectual prowess. Do you know the emotions to know that back in the 20s, you had a mecca of black people with their own way of life? And I mean, it was separate from white. It wasn't like, in North Carolina, which was the original mecca, but you had people that invested in black folk because it was beneficial to them. You had racists that invested in, they invested in the Duke family down there. They invested because they realized we're going to get money out of this situation. And Tulsa, Oklahoma is different. Greenwood Street is different because it's vibrant, it's classy, and here's the thing, it's a threat. It's a model to everybody else. And if you think about it, when Greenwood goes away, you don't hear about any other Greenwoods. That's the game. It's to make people think that you can't do what you're entitled to do. And so as we sit here and we start to wrap up, brothers and sisters, I'm calling them the Greenwood GOP because you know what you're doing. You want to burn down everything. And once you kill everybody, you want to put them in unmarked graves, whether it be politicians, whether it be ideas for fairness, whether it be international policy, whether it be the truth. And I just want to say, I see you and I recognize your game. Let's go ahead and get to our sponsors, brothers and sisters. I want to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. What's going on, Sister Sophia? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're well. Don't take that government money. You don't need them. Well, you know, that's a, they're gonna ask for that money back, believe me. You're gonna be somewhere. You'll see your next tax return, and then you're not gonna see it. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Sister Sophia. Let's give a shout out to our sponsor, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, spearheaded by none other than Maxine Cade Esquire. She is known as the Harriet Tubman of debt relief, trying to lead people out of debt and get them to the freedom of financial independence. And I say that in the spirit of Greenwood. She is trying to do that. So pay close attention to it. If you don't want to call, if you don't want to go to the website, please call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. And I'm also going to give a shout out to my alma mater, brothers and sisters. Of course, that'd be Bayan Islamic Institute. Again, that's Bayan Islamic, I said Institute. I'm sorry, Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Bayan Islamic Graduate School. I am an alumni now, which means that I don't have to go back there anytime soon, except as an alumni. But if you're thinking about getting your Islamic education, brothers and sisters, if you're really thinking about expanding your Islamic knowledge, but in a different way, don't expand it the way that's traditional, where you learn all the classical stuff. No, hold on to the things that have made you beautiful, that allowed you to thrive as a Muslim, and then just mesh it. Believe me, it helped me be a better comedian. It helped me be a better Muslim. You know, it helped me be a lot more informed with how I view society. And so, you know, I even attribute some of that stuff with how we do the shout out show, because it's been a blessing. It's been an absolute blessing. Shout out to the Muhammad Ali Center as well. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to get out of here. You guys have been amazing. We will see you tomorrow. And inshallah, we will be revisiting, if we will be revisiting this thing about Black Wall Street. I'm not going to let it go, because I just gave you the Greenwood GOP version, the mob, you know, the insurrection. You know, those are all the outgrowths, but they're not mistakes, brothers and sisters. Those are games that are meant to be played, and they will be played over and over and over and over again. Just like playing with the truth over and over and over, till somebody just get tired of you playing with the truth. They go, you know what? You're right. I know what the truth is, but you're right, because I want you to get out of my face. So hold strong, brothers and sisters, till we come back tomorrow. We'll be back on Tuesday, inshallah. You guys have been amazing. I appreciate you. Have an amazing day, the rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Preacher Mars, the SOS. Yo, assalamu alaikum. I'm Preacher Mars, comedian extraordinaire, but I like to add a new title to my name. I'm Professor Preacher Mars. You know why? Because I just graduated. Wait a minute, let me get this out of here. This is it. Okay. I'm Professor Preacher Mars, and it's come through the courtesy and the blessing of the Muhammad Ali Scholarship, which came through Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Now, listen, I know a lot of you people are thinking, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. This is the part where I don't know I'm supposed to say it's easy. It's not easy. Listen, it was easy to get this degree. Trump would be a mufti. I digress. Listen, though, for you brothers and sisters that are interested, go to bayanonline.org, and you could be like me. Put yourself in the picture for Islamic education. Wait a minute, there's the picture right there. Sound like everybody. Take care.